Iran and Israel, two of the Middle East's most significant powers, each wielding considerable influence in the region. Their relationship is complex, fraught with tension, and marked by a long history of mutual distrust. Understanding their dynamic is crucial to grasping the broader geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. Worlds apart in history, religious identity, and political ideology, these nations present stark contrasts. Israel, a Jewish state with strong ties to the West, stands in sharp contrast to Iran, a Shia Muslim theocracy with a revolutionary anti-imperialist agenda. Yet, despite their differences, they are locked in a persistent struggle, a shadow war that profoundly shapes the political and security environment of the Middle East, impacting everything from energy markets to international diplomacy. Israel, founded in 1948 in the aftermath of the Holocaust, was envisioned as a safe haven and a national homeland for the Jewish people. David Ben-Gurion's declaration marked the culmination of decades of Zionist efforts. Despite facing numerous challenges from its inception, Israel quickly transformed itself into a formidable military and technological powerhouse, driven by innovation and a strong sense of national purpose. This development was significantly aided by its close alliance with the United States, a strategic partnership that has provided Israel with crucial economic and military support. However, Israel remains geographically vulnerable, surrounded by neighbors with whom it has had and continues to have complex and often hostile relationships. Its vibrant democracy, while a testament to its resilience, is constantly defined by the need for vigilance and security, shaped by the ever-present existential threats it perceives. Iran, on the other hand, boasts a history stretching back millennia as the heir to the mighty Persian Empire, a civilization renowned for its contributions to art, science, and philosophy. Today, Iran is a vast and strategically important nation, blessed with abundant natural resources, including some of the world's largest reserves of oil and natural gas. However, Iran's modern history has been marked by a deep-seated suspicion of Western influence, a sentiment rooted in its experiences with colonialism and foreign interference. This suspicion is not unfounded, forged by decades of foreign intervention in its internal affairs, including the 1953 coup that toppled the democratically elected government of Mohammad Mossadegh. The watershed moment in Iran's modern history was the 1979 Islamic Revolution, a seismic event that dramatically reshaped the country's political and social landscape. This revolution transformed Iran into a theocratic republic, governed by Islamic clerics and guided by a strict interpretation of Shia Islam. The new regime defined itself in staunch opposition to both the United States and Israel, viewing them as symbols of Western imperialism and threats to its revolutionary ideals. Today, Israel views Iran's pursuit of nuclear capabilities with grave concern, seeing it as an existential threat to its security. Furthermore, Israel is deeply alarmed by Iran's support for proxy groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza, which it sees as destabilizing forces in the region. Iran, meanwhile, views Israel with equal suspicion and hostility. It sees Israel as an illegitimate outpost of Western power in the heart of the Middle East, a relic of colonialism that threatens its own regional ambitions. Iran believes that Israel's existence poses a direct threat to its security and its aspirations to play a leading role in the region. This mutual fear and deep-seated hostility have created a volatile and dangerous situation. This has fueled a protracted and multifaceted conflict that reverberates across the entire Middle East, contributing to regional instability and exacerbating existing tensions. Yet, not so long ago, Iran and Israel were quiet partners. In the Cold War era, both aligned with the West, sharing a common enemy in Arab nationalism. The Shah's Iran and Israel, both non-Arab states, saw Nasser's pan-Arabism as a threat. This led to discreet cooperation. Iran supplied oil to Israel, Israel shared technology and intelligence. Their alliance was pragmatic, not ideological, an elite-level pact hidden from the Iranian public. Iran never fully recognized Israel, but the partnership was real, built on shared interests. This fragile friendship depended on the Shah's rule. When the revolution came, it would all unravel. The seeds of today's conflict were sown in the ashes of this unlikely alliance. The 1979 revolution shattered Iran-Israel ties overnight. The Shah's pro-Western monarchy fell, replaced by Ayatollah Khomeini's Islamic Republic, fiercely anti-imperialist and anti-Israel. Iran severed all relations, handing Israel's embassy to the PLO and making support for Palestine a core policy. Israel lost a quiet partner and gained a powerful, ideologically driven adversary. Iran's new regime rejected Israel's right to exist, framing the conflict in religious and revolutionary terms. The Middle East's strategic map was redrawn. The battle would now be fought through proxies, covert action, and ideology. A new era of confrontation had begun. The Iran-Israel conflict soon moved from words to action, first in Lebanon. After Israel's 1982 invasion, Iran's Revolutionary Guard helped create Hezbollah, a Shia militia dedicated to resisting Israel. Hezbollah, armed and trained by Iran, became a formidable proxy waging guerrilla war, and eventually forcing Israel's withdrawal in 2000. Iran's strategy: fight Israel, indirectly inflict real costs, and expand influence. The shadow war spread globally: bombings, assassinations, cyber attacks, and covert operations. Israel responded with its own clandestine campaign against Iranian assets and proxies. The conflict became a deadly, deniable game, rarely erupting into open war. Lebanon was just the first battleground. The playbook of proxy warfare was set. The early 2000s brought a terrifying new front: Iran's secret nuclear program. Revelations of undeclared nuclear sites sent shockwaves through Israel, which saw an Iranian bomb as an existential threat. Israel launched a global campaign for sanctions and kept military options on the table. Iran insisted its program was peaceful, but secrecy fueled suspicion. Diplomacy dragged on, but the shadow war intensified. Cyber attacks, sabotage, and assassinations targeted Iran's nuclear progress. Israel's message was clear: it would not allow Iran to get the bomb. The nuclear issue raised the stakes from regional rivalry to potential nuclear crisis. The conflict had entered its most dangerous phase yet. The Syrian civil war in 2011 opened a new front. Iran intervened to save Assad, establishing a military presence near Israel's border. Israel saw this as intolerable and launched hundreds of airstrikes on Iranian and Hezbollah targets in Syria. The conflict escalated: drones, rocket barrages, and direct clashes became common. The war between the wars moved the struggle from the shadows to open confrontation. Both sides operated in close proximity, raising the risk of all-out war. The Syrian battlefield blurred the line between proxy and direct conflict. The Cold War had turned hot. The region teetered on the edge of wider war. In 2020, the Abraham Accords reshaped the region. Gulf states like the UAE and Bahrain normalized ties with Israel, prioritizing shared fears of Iran over the Palestinian issue. This new alliance combined Israeli technology with Gulf resources, forming a powerful bloc to counter Iran. For Israel, it was a diplomatic triumph, breaking its isolation and forging new partnerships. For Iran, it was a betrayal: Arab neighbors siding with its archenemy. The region polarized: Iran's axis of resistance versus a US-backed coalition. The Middle East became even more contested and volatile. The old order was gone. The conflict in the Middle East, a region already fraught with tension and instability, reached a new and dangerous peak. Decades of simmering disputes and proxy wars were about to boil over, threatening to engulf the entire region in a devastating conflagration. The delicate balance of power, carefully maintained through diplomacy and deterrence, was on the verge of collapse. This escalation was triggered after the devastating October 2023 Hamas attack on Israel. The surprise assault, which resulted in significant Israeli casualties and widespread shock, shattered the existing security paradigm and ignited a fierce response. The Hamas attack led to the Gaza War, a brutal and destructive conflict that further inflamed regional tensions. The intense fighting and heavy civilian casualties on both sides deepened the existing animosity and created a volatile environment ripe for further escalation. Iran, a longtime supporter of Hamas, praised the attack, further emboldening the group. Simultaneously, Hezbollah, another Iranian proxy based in Lebanon, opened a second front against Israel, launching attacks from the north and stretching Israel's military resources thin. These coordinated actions dramatically escalated tensions across the region, pushing it closer to the brink of a wider war. The delicate dance of deterrence was faltering, and the risk of miscalculation was growing with each passing day. The situation took a perilous turn in April 2024, when an Israeli strike targeted and destroyed Iran's consulate in Damascus, Syria. This bold move was a significant escalation, crossing a red line that had previously been respected. The strike resulted in the deaths of several top IRGC commanders, key figures in Iran's military and intelligence apparatus. This was not merely an attack on infrastructure, it was a direct assault on the leadership of Iran's Revolutionary Guard. The attack was perceived by Iran as a direct blow to its sovereignty, a violation of international law, and an unacceptable act of aggression that demanded a response. The destruction of a diplomatic facility is typically considered an act of war, and Iran felt compelled to retaliate. In response, Iran launched a massive retaliatory strike, unleashing an unprecedented barrage of drones and missiles directly at Israel. This was a historic moment, marking the first time Iran had directly attacked Israeli territory. The skies above Israel filled with hundreds of Iranian drones and missiles, a testament to Iran's growing military capabilities and its willingness to use them. The attack was a clear signal that Iran was no longer willing to tolerate attacks on its interests without a direct and forceful response. This dramatic escalation shattered decades of shadow war, bringing the long-simmering conflict between Iran and Israel into the open. The era of deniable operations and proxy battles was seemingly over, replaced by a new and more dangerous reality of direct confrontation. Fortunately, Israel and its allies, including the United States and the United Kingdom, were prepared for the attack. Their advanced missile defense systems, including the Iron Dome, intercepted nearly all of the incoming projectiles, preventing widespread damage and casualties. Despite the successful defense, the taboo of direct attacks had been irrevocably shattered. The psychological barrier against direct confrontation had been broken, paving the way for future escalations and miscalculations. In response to Iran's unprecedented attack, Israel retaliated with a limited strike inside Iran, targeting a military facility. The strike was carefully calibrated to send a message of deterrence without provoking a full-scale war. Both sides, seemingly aware of the catastrophic consequences of a full-blown war, carefully calibrated their actions, attempting to de-escalate the situation while still asserting their resolve. Diplomatic efforts were ramped up in an attempt to find a way out of the crisis. The international community, fearing a wider conflict, desperately sought to prevent all-out war, urging both sides to exercise restraint and engage in dialogue. The stakes were incredibly high, and the potential for miscalculation remained a constant threat. While a full-scale war was averted, at least for the moment, the rules of engagement in the Middle East had fundamentally changed. The old assumptions and understandings were no longer valid, and a new, more dangerous era had begun. The era of deniable conflict was definitively over, replaced by a new reality of direct military confrontation and heightened risk. The region was now teetering on the edge of a precipice, with the potential for further escalation always present. The region now stood on a knife's edge, with the slightest misstep capable of triggering a catastrophic chain reaction. The fragile peace was hanging by a thread, and the future remained uncertain. The risk of catastrophic war, a war that could engulf the entire region and beyond, had never been higher. The world watched with bated breath, hoping that cooler heads would prevail and that a path to de-escalation could be found before it was too late. As of June 2025, the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East hangs in a delicate balance. Years of simmering tensions, proxy conflicts, and diplomatic failures have brought two powerful nations, Iran and Israel, to the very brink of a full-scale war. The shadow of uncertainty looms large, casting a pall over the entire region and sparking concerns across the globe. Iran and Israel stand closer to open war than ever before. The drums of war are beating louder, fueled by mutual animosity and a complex web of strategic calculations. Each nation views the other as an existential threat, and the rhetoric has become increasingly bellicose. The precedent of direct attacks, once considered an unthinkable red line, has erased old boundaries. The rules of engagement have changed, and the threshold for military action has been significantly lowered. This new reality has created a dangerous environment where miscalculations and escalatory actions could have devastating consequences. Both nations now see each other's homeland as a legitimate target. No longer are attacks confined to proxy forces or foreign territories. The specter of strikes against critical infrastructure and population centers looms large, raising the stakes to unprecedented levels. Israel remains determined to stop Iran's nuclear ambitions, viewing it as an unacceptable threat to its very existence. The possibility of preemptive strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities remains a constant consideration, despite the potential for a massive retaliatory response, and roll back its influence in Syria, where Iran has established a significant military presence and supports the Assad regime. This ongoing struggle for influence has turned Syria into a battleground for the two nations, further exacerbating the already volatile situation. And Lebanon, where Hezbollah, a powerful Iranian proxy, holds significant sway. The potential for conflict along the Lebanese border remains high, with both sides engaged in a constant game of brinkmanship. Iran, ideologically committed to Israel's destruction, views the Jewish state as an illegitimate entity and a major obstacle to its regional ambitions. This deep-seated animosity fuels its unwavering support for anti-Israel groups and its pursuit of advanced weaponry. Continues to arm its proxies, providing them with the resources and training necessary to carry out attacks against Israel and its allies. These proxy forces act as extensions of Iranian power, allowing it to exert influence and destabilize the region without directly engaging in open warfare. And project power throughout the Middle East, seeking to establish itself as the dominant regional player. This ambition is viewed with deep suspicion and hostility by Israel and its allies, who see it as a direct challenge to their security and interests. Mutual distrust runs deep, poisoning any attempts at dialogue or de-escalation, and cycles of escalation have become the norm, with each side responding to perceived provocations with retaliatory measures. This tit-for-tat dynamic has created a dangerous feedback loop, pushing the two nations closer to the abyss. Leave little room for diplomacy. Years of failed negotiations and broken agreements have eroded any remaining trust, making it increasingly difficult to find a peaceful resolution to the conflict. The region is balanced on a razor's edge, a precarious situation where even a minor incident could have catastrophic consequences. One misstep could ignite a wider war, drawing in other regional and international actors. The potential for a large-scale conflict with devastating consequences for the entire region and beyond is a very real and present danger. The world watches with growing anxiety as the situation deteriorates, but its power to intervene is limited, constrained by political divisions and a lack of effective mechanisms for conflict resolution. The international community finds itself largely on the sidelines, unable to exert meaningful influence on the trajectory of the conflict. The Iran-Israel conflict is a stark warning, a grim reminder of the dangers of unchecked aggression and unresolved grievances. Alliances can become enmities with surprising speed, and yesterday's partners can quickly become today's adversaries. And unresolved rivalries can spiral toward disaster, with devastating consequences for all involved. The future remains uncertain, but one thing is clear: the stakes are incredibly high, and the need for de-escalation and dialogue is more urgent than ever.